It's wonderful to welcome again to this week's Just a Little Bit Random. Magician extraordinaire, yes, let's go with that again, and star of Now You See Me Live, Gabriella Lester. Welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. It's good to have you back. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's kind of early in the morning here in the UK, so, you know.
Yeah, and what's the weather like over there? Is it raining?
I don't think yet. Maybe in about 10 minutes or so.
I think it's always like 10 minutes away from raining in the UK.
Indeed. So, as we say, I mean, you're here to come to the UK in a short while, I believe. End of July is when Now You See Me Live starts. And I kind of have to go for the generic, boring, everybody does this opening question of, what's the general idea behind the show?
Yeah, I mean, the show is really special. For those of you that have seen the Now You See Me movies, it's basically like if the magicians in the show had put that live show on stage and you could come see it. So it's really cool. And I think the coolest thing about it is it's kind of got every kind of magic. You know, a lot of the times when you go to a magic show, or any show for that matter, you're watching one performer, which means you're just kind of seeing one speed, one style of magic. But this show, you know, we've compiled all the best magicians in the world, and myself, and we're doing a show where you kind of just get a little bit of everything. We've got tricks with cameras close up in the audience. We've got tricks with kids. We've got illusions. We've got mentalism. We've got tech magic. It's really a little bit of everything. And I get to be on stage with some of my favorite people in the world. And I think I have more fun than the audience, if not the equal amount, every night.
I was going to save this question, but it's one that I really, really wanted to ask. So there's this idea, I think it's changed quite a bit recently with comedy. There was initially an idea that people, you know, other comedians wouldn't laugh at other comedians' jokes because they, you know, knew where they were going or they just didn't want to. And now I think comedy has turned into something quite more accepting, where people are open and they're much more collaborative. And when it comes to magic, when you're watching other people perform, are you still getting that same sense of wonder?
Yeah, I think definitely. And even in this show, it's interesting because you're watching the same kind of performances every night. But we do find ourselves standing in the wing in every show, even if it's a 3 show day, watching our friends, because it's also interesting. And I really do feel like every show is different and there's something giddy in it. And I think when you see something so much, it allows you to appreciate different things. Like it's not the same as watching it once or twice, but when you know the ins and outs of a routine, you've seen every possible volunteer that a person can have, you get more fixated on the little things that they say and they do, and all the different places that the routine could go. And sometimes you have surprise moments, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, like I really, really love performing. And I think it's so special to be in a show with other people for the first time in my life that I'm just having a blast standing in the wings and watching them do their things and watching, you know, they're masters at things I'm not even a beginner at. So it's really special to watch them do that every night. And a lot of the people in the show are people that I've looked up to growing up or people that I've admired. You know, I'm the youngest by a landslide. So, you know, a lot of these people, especially the escapologist Andrew Basso, is someone that I've looked up to and admired for so many years. So to watch him do what he does every single night it's incredible. And I don't think I'll ever get tired of that.
Is it a little break when you're watching off stage from that mindset of performing, or is it kind of consistent for you, like the whole show?
It is a little bit of break in some ways, and I think the show is actually like a lot easier than I thought it would be. Because usually when you walk on stage, you know, for me and you're doing a show, you go on stage for an hour and a half, and you don't stop. Like everything's on you. You have to remember your whole set list, everything that, like when you walk on stage, you have no moment, you know, to catch your breath, make sure you have everything. And, you know, performing, I've kind of been on my own my whole career. I've been running my own music. I've been running my own cues. I've been setting everything. I've been striking everything. And now I'm a part of the show where I go on stage for 2 or 3 minutes. I have a break. Everything's set for me. There's people doing music. There's people doing lights. There's people doing pyro. Like I really thought that this show would be a lot more difficult because of the scale. But in some sense, it's been a lot easier, which has allowed me to have a lot more fun. Like I've always had a lot of stage fright and a lot of nerves and a lot of anxiety about performing. But for the first time ever, I think I'm really enjoying performing because I have a lot less to worry about other than just performing. Like my only concern now is doing my tricks. My only concern now is being on stage. Everything else is taken care of. Music's taken care of. Lights taken care of. Props are set on stage. Props are strike. Everything is done. Like all I have to worry about is having fun while I perform and doing my best at it. And that's cool. to get to have that playground because I haven't had that before. Not without panic attacks, but there's less panic attacks now.
Does part of it come from, I guess, that unit that you have around you, not just the other magicians that are performing, but again, the whole basically tech unit and production unit that you have is the collaborative, supportive nature of that?
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I mean, we have a pretty big crew. We got people that travel with us. We have local crew, so it's unbelievable. It's people that are like dedicated to do one specific thing, people dedicated to deciding which camera you're using, people dedicated to calling the show, people dedicated to moving props on and off stage and making sure things are set. And yeah, that's something I've never really had before. And I think it's been a big jump because I went from having a team of one to now this team of 50. And yeah, I feel really lucky. It feels strange in some ways, because I want to do more myself and I'm so used to it, but it makes a big difference. And I think it's an important thing for a performer to experience, like the ability to perform only thinking about performing and not having to worry about everything else.
It's kind of stuff that I want to come into a bit later in the show, but for now I've asked you to come up with a couple of song requests. Do you want to go to your first one?
The first song request, of course, it's Billy Joel, is She's Got Away.
Wonderful. We are back on this week's Just a Little Bit Random with Gabriella Lester talking about Now You See Me Live. You were talking a moment or two ago, as we record this, about some of the differences, I guess, between your normal shows where you're controlling everything and these ones where you have a lot of people dealing with the tech and production. And you mentioned how it feels a bit easier that you're going on just worrying about performing and then that's more what you're dealing with. Does the show still feel bigger compared to, I guess, more personal, but intimate maybe performances that you do to small theatres, or does it feel smaller?
No, it definitely feels big in the sense that I've never walked on stage and had pyro go off behind me just for the mere purpose of being on stage. So it does feel bigger in that regard, and everything around it is so much bigger. So there's like pluses and minuses to that. Overall, it's incredible, but in some ways, it's not your show. It's your performance, but it's not your show. What I do miss in some ways is the freedom that I have in my own intimate shows, whether even if it's 20 or 30 people, like. I've always liked small audiences. I've always liked a performance where I can see everyone in the room. I can know everyone in the room. Like I really just feel like I go on stage and I'm having a conversation. And in some ways I can replicate that in a big crowd. But it's not exactly the same. So it's different for sure. And also like there's a difference between having the ability to like, before I go on stage in my own show, if I want to change everything, no one cares. If I want to change anything in this show, like it does matter. So, it's learning, two different speeds. And in some ways it's good and bad. It's kind of good to learn to do the same thing and not change it all the time. It also like allows me to be a little bit less critical of myself because when I'm performing on my own, I have the ability to, after every show go, this is bad. This wasn't great. And kind of now, like it's a bit of a breath of fresh air because the show's not constantly changing like my own show is. Like the show isn't constantly being scrutinized. We've kind of built this machine that's really impressive, and the show's incredible. And again, like all I do is I walk on stage and I do my best at performing. I can make subtle tweaks, but not a lot. So all I have to worry about is like doing the performance as good as I can, and really just enjoy performing. And in my own show, it's different because the entire time I'm performing, I'm thinking about what to change. I get off stage, I want to make changes in the next show. And that's a good, healthy thing to do. But in some ways, it can be a bit consuming because, like I said, it can take the fun out of it. So I think I just gave you a 10-minute answer to a question. But
a great answer. I have no issues. I do have to ask, though, and this is, after that, I could easily go into an actual question, but instead I'm going to go into, do you feel the heat of the pyro when you're walking away from it?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I've definitely got some pyro sparks to the face for sure. But damn, do you feel like a superhero? I can't be cool with it. Like I thought I'd reach a point where I'd just be cool, but no, I'm like, it's the coolest thing ever. I feel like a superhero. Like I hit like freaking rock star hands and pyro goes off behind me and I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like who gets to do this? So
we've spoken a little bit in the past about kind of the idea of, character on stage or like a certain version of you that's, on stage. Is that slightly different? Is the persona that you have maybe on stage for Now You See Me a bit different to the one that, might have, I think you said sardonic at one point,
Yeah.
for your version in your normal gigs. Is there a bit of a difference?
There's a subtle difference, as in, like, I don't feel like I have as much freedom to kind of say and do whatever I want. The show is also structured so much by time and cues and everything that you can't really go off in any which direction. Like, in my show, it doesn't matter. If I want to spend 10 minutes doing a trick, I can. In this show, I can't do that. So, and I'm also mindful that it's, a family show. Like, this is kind of my first time really doing a show in a long time where there's kids in the audience. Usually my shows are like late night crowds, they're comedy clubs. Like, I can kind of get away with whatever, but this show's more of a family show. So yes, I do have the sardonic edge. And I think the Now You See Me brand kind of allows for that. Like, they're kind of sarcastic and edgy in the film. So you do get to have that. And I do still feel like myself, but I don't feel like I really get to play as much as I usually do on my own. So in a sense, it's a little bit, but not as much as I'd like to, like, that's where I really feel like I get to thrive. But in some ways, it's allowed me to find other areas, because all I've really ever done on stage is like played. Like, I've only ever really thought about comedy and making jokes and being sarcastic and who I'm going to pick on, and what's the funniest thing that could happen. But in this show, I'm finding different things. It's like, well, how do I connect with the audience? How do I be sentimental? How do I deliver something powerfully? How do I deliver fear in the right way? How do I connect with a kid? Like, I'm finding these different things that I haven't done before. And something that I've really, really loved in this show is my relationship with the kids in the audience. Like, that's been so special, because I see myself so much in the kids in the crowd. It's unbelievable. And in pretty much every venue we've been in, you can see everyone in the audience, which is something I really like. So I can see all of the kids that are sitting on the edges of their seats, looking at you like you're the coolest thing in the world, tapping their parents on the shoulder, pointing at you, like looking at you like this amazing thing. And I see, me in their eyes. I see how I looked at shows in the audience when I was a kid. And that's become something that's so special, and that's been more important than being funny or being sarcastic or being the smartest person in the room. Like, I just feel like I'm doing something that matters in a way that I didn't feel performing before.
I mean, you've kind of said it there, but are you performing to the younger version of yourself?
I think all the time. Yeah. Yeah. And I really do feel like a relationship with a different kid in the audience every night. Like, if I feel like I have a connection, or there's some kid or whatever that's looking at you, I mean, the cutest thing is they wave at you, and if you wave back, they're like, minds explode. Like, they think it's the coolest thing ever. And every time I'd get off stage in between an act, I'd write them a little note to give to them at the end of the show during bows, and I'd high five and have my Taylor Swift moment hugging them at the end of the show from the side of the stage. And yeah, I mean, I think it's so cool, because I also know how much those moments mean. Like, I got my start doing magic because I met a magician after a show, and his interaction with me is like what really sparked it. So I always take those extra moments with kids, whether it leads to something or nothing, or they become a magician, or even if they end up on stage or whatever it is. I think, when I see passion or excitement in a kid's eyes for something like this, I know I had so much of that. And I know how much, a moment from the person on stage can make a kid hooked or excited or feel like what they can, feel like it's possible. So yeah, I feel like I do everything I do for a younger version of me.
Does that help with, I guess, just a sense of focus? Because obviously you played the Sydney Opera House, you're playing to audiences of a lot. Does that help, I guess, kind of focus on, one particular person, and maybe not the fact that, I mean, you mentioned kind of stage fright and worry. Do you think about the size of the audience?
I really thought I would, because it was a bit of a jump. Like, I played a couple times in my life, 1 or 2 thousand seaters. So I definitely thought that I'd feel a jump, but not so much. I think in some ways smaller rooms are harder, because you can, really see everything, and you're on your own. And I think in this show, you're just so protected, because it's such a production, and you're like, my goal and focus is just to be as good as I possibly can, and especially in this show, not to make it about gender roles, but it's 3 guys and 1 girl, and I don't want to be the best girl in the show. Like, what I'm fighting is to be equal or better than the guys. So every time I step on stage, I'm putting my best foot forward, even if it's show 3 of the day or show 13 of the week, or I'm exhausted, like, to really do my bloody best every time I walk on stage. But I don't really feel the size of the room, in any other way other than appreciation. Like at the Sydney Opera House, every time I walked on stage, I could look around and actually appreciate the room that I was in for the first time, and go, this is amazing, this is so special, and not really feel the fear. And also because you feel detached in a show like this, you're like, here's the stage where the show is happening, and there's where the audience is, and there's a bit of a separation. Whereas in smaller show rooms, there's no separation. You're here, the audience is here, everyone sees you, everyone sees everything. Like there's a bit of a safety net in this show, which allows me again to enjoy the size of the audience, enjoy the show, enjoy performing, which are all cool things.
And with that, we have one more section coming up, but do you want to go to your second song request?
Yeah, number 2 is Human by The Killers.
The final part of this week's interview with Gabriella Lester talking about Now You See Me Live is here. You were just talking, admittedly, about you don't want to be seen as the only girl in the show. You want to be seen as the best person on stage. But are you able to tell us who else is in the show?
Yeah. We've had a couple different casts, but for London, we've got, like I mentioned, Andrew Basso, who's the escapologist, who is the best in the world, if not ever, escapologist in the world. He does an upside-down water torture cell escape, which is one of the most deadliest things you can ever do on a stage or anywhere for that matter. He's phenomenal and such an incredible person. And then we've got Matthew Pomeroy, who's one half of the Conjurers, who's from the UK, and he's just kind of like the front man of the show. Funny guy, he's awesome. And then we've got Enzo Wayne for the first 10 days of London, who's French and incredible, and he's created a lot of the illusions that go into the show, and everything he does is absolutely incredible. Like when I say I'm in the wings, that's what I'm watching every night. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's so talented. Yeah, I could talk about everyone on and on and on. They're so cool, and I feel like excited. Like I feel like I'm talking about a show I have tickets for that I'm going to see, that I'm so excited to see, and I'm in the wings for it every night. Yeah, they're amazing.
And what is it that you do?
I get to do a little bit of everything in the show, which is kind of interesting. Like I do an illusion, I do something kind of close up in the audience. I do a costume change at the beginning of the show, like kind of stuff I've never done before. I do this like tech act with screens, and so I get to do a little bit of everything in the show. So you'll see me everywhere, on stage, in the crowd, and in the audience. So yeah, it's really, really fun.
I mean, obviously, we mentioned you get a couple of breaks in between. You do a couple of minutes, then you're off stage, someone else is performing. But especially when I guess you're doing 2 shows in a day, perhaps, or again, you're going throughout most of the week. I'm pretty sure you're doing this for a solid month. Again, you've done this in Sydney Opera House, did it in I think Singapore. What's it like keeping that energy up? Do you find yourself having to?
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to remind yourself to not get bitter about it at any point or too early, because you're kind of in that environment. Not that it's a negative environment, but you get that, like, everyone gets tired. So when you're backstage and everyone is going, oh yeah, like we're so tired, or this is such a long day, or like if it's earlier you start to think like that, the harder it can be. So the best thing is to just try and keep positive. Obviously it's natural that you're going to get tired and exhausted, but I think for me it's like always finding something to be excited about, like for me it's, and the kids really do help with that, or even anyone. Like if I feel like I can form a connection with someone in the audience, like I feel like I'm doing something for the first time that day, and that kind of helps me get through. But yeah, you definitely do get tired, but at the end of the day, like what's that quote that I've always loved, that it's like, it's a gift to be tired from work that you've always craved doing. And this is my dream. Like, this is what I've always wanted to do. So I'd much rather be tired from having my dream than tired from chasing my dream. So it's not a bad place to be.
Love it. This is kind of separate to this is the kind of let's all start to wrap this up kind of questions. But very quickly, these are 2 things based on your Instagram. First of all, is this tour an excuse for you to try and find the best tiramisu in the world?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yes, like so passionately. And that's literally the best question you could have asked. And this is bringing my excitement out, because Andrew Basso, who I mentioned, who's like one of my best friends in the world, like we talk religiously about tiramisu all the damn time. And what I keep saying in London is it's so close to Italy. And I don't, like, we have a show in the morning and a show in the evening. I am getting on a train in between shows and getting a tiramisu in Rome. Like, absolutely. And I've been trying. This is like the international tiramisu search. For sure.
But have you tried yet Jaffa cakes?
I think you mentioned this maybe last time, and I don't think I still have.
I will have undoubtedly mentioned them last time.
Yeah.
He said, pulling out
Yeah.
his pack of
You're like the
Jaffas.
Jaffa Cake front man, for sure. But I'll
Yes.
have to try this time.
Yes, no, absolutely you will. If not, I'll find some way to make sure that that happens. Well, as you're signing autographs or doing whatever backstage at your stage door, there's just some idiot there. There you go. Your life shall be changed.
Yeah, no, that's great. That'll be the best thing. I really got some random gifts from Stage Door from some people, but I do know this time when I get the Jaffa Cakes, it's going to be from you. Let him through, guys. It's good. The cakes are with me.
Another tradition, it seems, that you have, and this isn't just for, Now You See Me, this is for almost all shows that you do. Can we just talk about the empty venue bows
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
post? So what's behind that?
I don't really know when I started doing that. I think maybe when I was still living in Vancouver and younger, I started taking these empty room bows. And I really don't know what started it, but I think I I did it one time and I looked at the two videos afterwards. Like I looked at my video bowing in the show and I looked at my video bowing in the empty room. And I think it was just kind of my way of saying goodbye to the venue or having one last moment, especially because things can be so hectic when you're performing and when you're on tour, like especially when I was doing shows like one city a night, you're in that place and then you just go to the next and you go to the next and you don't always get those moments. And I think for me, it's because I can be so anxious and so energetic and so nervous before a show that I don't really get to appreciate as what I'm doing as much. And then so I found a way to have a moment after the show where I could be appreciative. And I've done it everywhere and I still do it everywhere. And, you know, I did it in a 30-seat theater in Chicago a few weeks ago. And earlier this year, I got to do it in the Sydney Opera House. And I think it's just a really special thing to get to do, to take time and take it in. And it's a cool thing, you know, because you can close your eyes and you can really remember everything that's happened in that room, especially on this tour. Like when you spend a month in a room, there's so many memories, so many things that have happened, and like you can see the crowd, you know, and I think it's so important. And I think that's something I'm going to do forever, you know. I really hope I do. And it's something that I kind of did accidentally, and now it's like the most important thing I do in any theater.
Is it a way of kind of rounding it off and closing it out? Like you still get, you know, if it was a good show, you get that feeling of it good, you get to reflect on it. But if it was maybe one that, let's blame it on the audience weren't as receptive, that maybe that's the close of it, and then you can move on. Does it act a bit like that?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and a really good thing to say, especially to me. It's yeah, taking that moment to be appreciative of what you've done, whether it's good or bad. Because I've taken empty room bows after crap shows too, and it's just what you have to do. Like you just have to say thank you, you have to say goodbye, and like yeah, like I said, it's something I always try to do before the show, but I couldn't. Like I always used to try and stand in the back of the room because I love the image of seeing like a theater where in the back of people's heads, like seeing all these people and trying to like comprehend the thought that everyone here has taken time out of their life, taken time, you know, taken money out of their wallet to sit in this room for the sole purpose of watching you do this thing. Like they're all here because you exist and you're about to do something. They're all sitting in this room facing the same direction because of you. And I always try to take a moment before the show, but I would just be too anxious that I could never really take it in. You know, and so it's important that I created that thing after the show. And yeah, definitely important that I'm saying goodbye, whether it's a good show or a bad show, because I'm such a tough critic and I don't want to miss these things. Like even I think my last show at the Sydney Opera House, I didn't love my performance, and it would have been much easier to just pack my stuff up and leave. But you know, you have to take those moments. And I took so many there. Like that venue is so special. And I think when I left that night, when I left that night, for people that have been to the Sydney Opera House or not, there's a long walkway between the Opera House and where you get into a taxi. It's like a 5-minute long passage that you have to walk. And I did the whole walk backwards. Like I bumped into tons of people, but I did the whole walk backwards because it was my last time seeing the Opera House. And, you know, when it becomes your place of work and you go there every day, like it becomes, you know, less special so quickly. So when I was leaving that day, I did my empty room bow and then I did my whole walk back to the car just backwards, like taking it in at every possible second that I could. So, you know, because I didn't want it to just feel like an office. It felt like an office to all of us so quickly. You know, it's your place of work. The last place you wanted to go after 2-3 weeks is the Sydney Opera House. But at the end of it, it's like really important to have those images and that memory of like, this is the most iconic venue in the world. How special is it that I get to be there? So, yeah. Yeah, I'm happy I do things like that.
There's so much more I could ask, but time is pretty much up. So when is Now You See Me Live showing?
We open, I believe, end of July and we go till September. So I'm there all summer long.
What a place to be. Central
Right?
London in the summer. Well, do you know where people can get tickets?
Yeah, if you go to nowyousseemelive.com, or it's at the Coliseum Theatre in London in the West End. So if you go to the Coliseum site as well, you can find it, or through my Instagram or website, or you'll find us.
Gabriella, thank you so much for your time. Wonderful to talk to you. Before we go, do you want to go to your third song?